I normally don't give writing advice on this channel. In fact, I don't give much advice at all. I toned down doing that after I told that bad enthusiast to go to Wuhan. Yeah, sorry guys, that was all my fault. At least I brought the world together. But lately I've been seeing more and more amateur filmmakers, specifically screenwriters, struggling with their craft. Almost as if the well of fresh ideas is completely tapped out. Well, yeah, it has been for a while, but come on, plagiarism requires some creativity, doesn't it? Well, I want to make sure the next generation of filmmakers are good and inspired, so I feel as though it's my duty as an award-winning screenwriter to present all the knowledge I know for any who seek it. Award-winning, you may ask? Listen, Sean Baker may have took all the credit for Anora, but it was all me. You're sitting there late at night, final draft open, waiting for the ideas to hit you, but they just never do. Listen, your day-to-day consists of working a retail job and cleaning your room. And if it isn't, then clean your goddamn room already. Point is, you don't have much life experience under your belt to be a compelling storyteller. Or so you think! The highlight of your day is second screening some YouTube while playing a video game or watching the next Coworker movie Netflix just dropped. But that right there, my friend, is the key. If you don't have a lot of real life experiences or emotions to pull from, then just copy the pros. I mean, they say this dork was partially inspired by a car wreck he was in as a teenager when he wrote Star Wars. Yeah, okay, and World War I inspired Tolkien to write a story with wizards and elves. I've heard so many arguments about how older fiction was primarily based on real-life experiences and were nothing more than heightened depictions of reality. I mean, I guess, but how often do you hear about those stories anymore? So the first step to being a good writer is to consume media. More than you already have. Some of the most celebrated works of fiction ever are films, so by analyzing those alone, you're bound to get good ideas flowing. Slip in a few TV shows here and there, but your diet should primarily be movies. Hey, you're a film bro after all. The next thing to decide is what kind of movie you want to write. Maybe you're someone who gravitates towards sci-fi, or action, or horror. Maybe you like a combination of all those. But to keep things simple, let's go with horror. Horror is a genre that gets a lot of love on a regular basis. They're usually made for cheap and absolutely rake in the cash in theaters. That's another thing. The payday should be in the front of your mind right from the beginning. Movies are a business after all, and there's no better motivator than the thought of getting that check from a big studio. Okay, so you write a horror movie. You can set it in either modern suburbia, the woods, or the 18th century. Not anywhere in the 18th century, mind you, only the US or Europe. But not just any part of Europe either. Britain. Only Britain. It's a visual art, mind you, so aesthetics are a top priority before most things. But for simplicity's sake, let's set it in the suburbs. I mean, hey, you grew up in a normal town with most of your decisions and opinions now being based on nostalgia anyway, so why not tap into the only thing that you know? The main character should be a thinly veiled self-insert of some kind. You know yourself best, so you may as well make yourself the main character. How would you survive these types of situations? I know you fantasized about it. And give him a solid character breakdown within the text of the script itself. Give the reader some sort of backstory to suck them in. So the best way to open the film is a close-up shot of an alarm clock going off. Open the movie as if we're essentially waking up with the main character. He gets up and looks miserable. Have a quick montage of him going through his day. Quick inserts of a shower turning on, a bagel popping out of a toaster, packing a lunch, etc. You can add a narration over this part or not, whatever you want to do. But if you decide to go with it, you don't have to bother with the rest of the movie. Just open the movie with a narration. Don't pick it up later. But make sure to add plenty of camera direction in the actual script. This is a movie in your head, right? Well, you want people to get your true vision, regardless if you're actually directing it or not. Next, it's important to engross your reader within the first 10 pages or so. So don't skip out on the details. Going back to Tolkien, he's an author who didn't hold back when indulging in the most minute of details. And hey, he's one of the most beloved writers of all time. Wouldn't you like to see your name adjacent to his someday? Think about it. So if your titular character lives in the suburbs, then write plenty of suburban iconography. The trees, the bushes, what the neighbors are doing, what the weather is. Really paint a good picture for the reader before the movie is even made. So once you have your main character defined, it's now time to have a well thought out concept. Your concept is everything, and I mean everything. So really define it after you write your opening. You've built the foundation of your story, now it's time to see where it goes. Some people will suggest techniques such as outlining or note cards, and I mean sure, if you feel like wasting valuable writing time. Listen, your screenplay is supposed to be a reflection of your personal life and experiences, as I keep reiterating, and you don't pre-plan how your life is going to go. Whatever it throws at you, you work with. Just as with writing, whatever ideas come to you, you fit it in. But make sure it fits within the parameters of what genre you're operating in. Remember, you're trying to make this of both quality and marketability, and you don't want to alienate your audience all too much. Give them a bit of a challenge, but nothing too out there. For supporting characters, write the important ones having similar sounding names. Like have one named Bill and the other Phil and another named Gil and a woman named Jill. That makes it easier on you in remembering them. Now for dialogue, make sure that characters get lots of monologues. You want to be remembered as a good writer, right? Well, make sure the writing is something the audience is aware of while watching. It's a valuable part of the experience to have viewers be participatory in your work. Now, sometimes it can be kind of tricky to convey all your character's emotions through words alone, and that's where parentheticals come in. If a person needs to act a certain way in a film, then by God, you make sure that's conveyed. Helps the reader, but also helps the actors, so go nuts. So once you set up everything by the 10 to 15 page mark, you should make sure the conflict is well established. There's plenty of conflicts that could arise, but the one that works best is if there's some kind of MacGuffin involved. If you aren't aware, a MacGuffin is an object or a device in a movie or a book that serves as a trigger for the plot. Think of the Ark in Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Death Star plans in Star Wars, the alcohol in Superbad, etc. Humans are selfish and materialistic anyway, so if you get them to care about a simple object, then that's the catalyst for the momentum. And in the realm of horror, you have tons to operate with when it comes to objects. Most horror movies have some variation of a MacGuffin anyway. There's always some cursed doll or family heirloom or something, which you should think about right away when making this, by the way. Let the MacGuffin dictate the characters. Use it as a driving force for your narrative. A lot of so-called experts like to talk about theme in the same respect. Well, again, do you theme your own life? I don't think so. But if you're compelled to do one on top of your MacGuffin, then cover as many as possible. One singular theme isn't going to hook in a viewer as well as an object would. So go big or go home and either cover a ton of themes or none at all. Again, you want your face up there with the greats, don't you? So make sure you hit the second act low point to make sure the character is aware of what position he's in. Perfect time for another monologue, I think. This could also be a good time to introduce flashbacks. A pretty common storytelling tool that can be perfectly introduced here. Have them go on for, I'd say, either a few pages or a quick montage of some sort. This is info you probably weren't able to convey to the audience in any way, so it's best to hit them with it right when their attention begins to wane. I mean, you want people to actually watch the film, right? Do you use money? This is also good practice to go back into your script and implement any additions you may have made. Don't listen to any advice of a vomit draft. The first draft can be tweaked and perfected as you go. The most a sloppy first draft will do is demoralize you and feel as though you need to start from scratch each time. Get that first draft to a nice polished state before sending it out. But before doing that, you have to craft an effective ending. Anyone will tell you that the ending is easily the hardest part of the process, but no one will tell you the best approach to it. They'll say stuff like, follow what your heart dictates. Well, my heart's clogged with cholesterol, so how's that going to help my writing? You can either have it be some kind of pensive or uneasy feeling ending, which is typical of the genre, or a completely definite ending where the conflict is generally resolved. I personally recommend some kind of combination of the two. Make the audience feel as though you've given them a holistic experience while also keeping them titillated for the sequels. And I'd say right when you're done with this script, crafting some kind of roadmap for the rest of the franchise. It'll help you cook up ideas for the future and have it be an easier sale to the studios. You want your character to eventually end up in space? Well, that'll guarantee you at least 4 or 5 sequels, so make sure you plan accordingly. Writing is a craft that only gets better with time. Yes, they say there's a lot of quote-unquote rules of the process, but those should be seen as more guidelines. They say there are rules to driving, but if I followed all those signs on the road, I wouldn't get to where I needed to nearly as quickly. Sure, I'd have a lot less tickets, but they stop serving breakfast baconators so early these days. Can you blame me? But I hope this gives you the motivation to finally get off your butt and write something. I mean, this is all advice my father told me on my wedding day. The marriage didn't really work out, but those divorce papers never seemed so cinematic.